part 4 of the recursive radicalism of Nick Fuentes. We're going to start with the null visitation and the psychotechnic night. I'm Abe Zucca. This is readings and writings by me, Abe Zucca. You can check out my art at zuccagallery.com. You can go on Google and just type in Abe Zucca and see what you find. In the social medias, I have an Instagram, Facebook. The assassins, the delusions, the synthetic desire, digital adolescence, the null visitation, the psychotechnic night. If you guys have any questions, type them in the comments. Every assassin is an allegory first, a biography second. Madness is no longer a disease of the mind, but a byproduct of bandwidth, where the real withdraws, simulation commit murder in its name. The day of the null visitation. There are days when the world tilts into omen, when a mundane date in the calendar, an arbitrary square in the bureaucratic grid, suddenly irradiates into mythic atmosphere. And the protagonist senses that fate is rehearsing something behind the drywall of reality. Such days become the hinges around which the narrative of one's life thereafter rotates. The assassin appears not as a man, but as a reflection wearing a helmet, an emissary from the null node of society's psychic overflow, a humanoid silhouette encoded by loneliness, medication, and collapsing symbolic orders. And his arrival at the threshold marks a moment when myth and biography become briefly indistinguishable. Hello. It is the characteristic of the digital age that the would-be killer announces himself, if not through prophecy or rumor, but via a push notification, ring motion detected, as though the algorithm itself wished to narrate the scene in real time. Yeah, this is the Bible. It says it right on the cover. Don't read the cover. Just ask me dumb questions. Just say hello and ask me dumb questions. Trust me. You guys don't know what you're missing. To continue speaking live on air while an armed intruder pounds on the door is an example of a new modern stoicism, where composure is not virtue but protocol. For the danger now is not the bullet, but the attention that acknowledgement of the bullet might summon. Every assassination attempt in the post-information era contains a performative element. The killer imagines himself not slaying a man, but inserting himself into an online mythos, joining the pantheon of those who correct the world's injustices through theatrical violence. The iron custodians in the yellow boundary of fate. When the iron custodians surround a house with their blue lights and yellow tape, they are not merely responding to an incident, they are conducting a ritual of containment, drawing boundary lines around a metaphysical disturbance to keep its contagion from spreading across the civic psyche. The refusal of the authorities to explain the event is itself an explanation in the machine republic. Violence is no longer an event, but a background process, an ambient condition no more deserving of narrative coherence than a severe crash. The law may retrieve the footage, archive it, tag it, and bury it in the data vault. But the protagonist receives no oracle, no report, no causal chain, because the new violence no longer originates in motive, but in psychotechnical entropy. The state increasingly acts as a cleanup crew rather than a guardian. It seals the perimeter, extracts the corpse, collects the metadata, and leaves the citizen to his private incomprehension. Thus, the modern assassination attempt becomes a silent sacrament, a visitation of chaos without liturgy, explanation, or closure. The fallen acolyte of the algorithm. The killer was once a boy in a dorm room, a small statued figure drowning quietly beneath unpaid debts, chemical imbalances, and a collapsing future. Yet the modern world has no shrines for the forlorn, only pipelines leading from online delusion to offline catastrophe. I insulted a couple of people, so they all left. You ask dumb questions. Everybody just says hello. They don't even no one ever understands anything that I'm reading. His fall from normalcy into the triple homicide is not a personal story, but a cultural case study, a portrait of a psyche unable to metabolize humiliation with any communal structure, and thus turning to the violence as a final attempt at coherence. By the time he reaches the protagonist's door, he is no longer a person, but a ritual object, a vessel containing rage, despair, psychosis, and digital mythography, all swirling into a single unstable figure. The use of a crossbow alongside a firearm reveals a symbolic dislocation. The modern killer imagines himself both medieval executioner and digital crusader, mixing epochs as easily as he mixes drugs, memes, and hallucinations. His motives remain unrevealed, not because no one knows them, but because motives no longer exist. In any stable form, they have dissolved into a slurry of chemical, social, and digital derangements. The architecture of modern madness. There exists a new species of nihilistic youth whose interiority has been rewritten by a triad of forces. The white tablets of forgetting SSRIs, the green fog of euphoric stupor modern marijuana, and the rainbow labyrinth of synthetic visions psychedelics. Such youth do not descend into madness because they hate the world, but because the world has become illegible to them. They navigate reality as though drifting through procedural generated levels in a game they did not choose to play. Social isolation is the incubator. Digital subcultures are the teachers, and the psychoactive substrates are the catalysts. Together they build a perception engine potent enough to disassemble the barriers between imagination and violence. Psychosis is no longer an aberration, but a predictable phase shift in overstimulated minds, deprived of ritual, community structure, and embodied reality. Violence engages not from ideology, but from overclocked loneliness, a spiraling feedback loop between internal void and external stimulation. The delusional labyrinth of the internet. The internet is not a communication medium, but a psychic multiplier, exaggerating every grievance, desire, fantasy, and insecurity until the individual can no longer distinguish his thoughts from the machine's projections. In online subcultures, even the meek can imagine themselves as avenging angels, prophets, crusaders, or executioners. The digital stage invites them to cast themselves in roles that reality would never grant. Discord servers become cathedrals of dislocated adolescents. Gaming lobbies become replacement families. And unmoderated forums become hothouses for aberrant mythologies. In these labyrinths, the young do not merely consume narratives, they become characters in them, often without noticing the transition. They ask stupid questions like, is that a Bible? They'd rather watch stupid videos on TikTok. Thus, the digital world produces no ideologues but dreamwalkers whose destructive acts feel to them like the continuation of a hallucinated story. The green fog and the white tablet. Marijuana, once a ritual plant of altered consciousness, has mutated into a hyper-potent chemical haze that erodes initiative, ambition, libido, and reality testing, turning young men into tranquilized spectators of their own lives. The leakiness of the green fog is more insidious than alcohol's blunt force, where alcohol announces its presence through slurred speech and stumbling gait. Cannabis infiltrates quietly, rendering the devotee devout defender of their own decline. The modern strain does not relax, it dissolves, flattening temporal structure, emotional rhythm, and the capacity for striving. The white tablet of forgetting operate on the opposite axis, where marijuana softens the edges of consciousness. SSRIs harden them into numbed baseline, producing subjects who cannot feel despair but likewise cannot feel assent. Together, the green fog and the white tablets create a population simultaneously sedated and unstable, easy to pacify, easy to trigger, impossible to anchor. The spectral Aphrodite. The psychopolitics of addiction. Addiction proliferates in youth not because youths are weak, but because the contemporary world supplies an unprecedented variety of hyper-stimuli, each engineered bypass conscious will and embedded itself directly into the reward circuitry. Weed promises tranquility but yields apathy. Video games promise achievement but deliver only repetition. Each addiction is a counterfeit sacrament, a ritual that imitates the structure of meaning-making while gradually destroying the soul that seeks meaning. The addict is not a villain, but a pilgrim misled by counterfeit gods who speak in the language of dopamine. The tragedy is not merely that addiction enslaves, but that they reconfigure identity around the very forces that hollow it out. The psychotechnic era. The assassin, the addict, the nihilist, and the influencer all emerge from the same psychic ecosystem. A world where reality has been outsourced to screens, intimacy to pixels, passion to chemicals, and identity to algorithms. The crisis of the age is not political but ontological. We have built machines that devour attention, distort desire, rewrite perception, and supply myth without meaning. To survive this era, one must cultivate embodied life, disciplined desire, communal ritual, and narrative integrity, virtues that no screen can simulate. Without such practices, society will continue producing unstable young men who flip without warning from passivity to apocalypse. The path forward is neither nostalgia nor panic, but the construction of new rights of sobriety, attention, courage, eros, community, and meaning, each designed to anchor the soul against the centrifugal forces of the psychotechnic night. Spectral eros and the anatomy of the digital metamorphosis. Eros under glass mutates faster than the bodies that behold it. Where the gaze is severed from touch, identity begins to migrate. The machine does not seduce, it reprograms. That'll be at the end of part 4. Check out my art at zuccagallery.com. Google the name Abe Zucca. Share, like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys later.